Okay, so we've gotten some pretty interesting messages from listeners about Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
And a lot of it seems to be about possible conspiracies, especially some stuff floating around online
Right.
about like weather control and how it might be tied into the election.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this even possible? Should we be worried about
That's
that?
it. Well, I mean, it's definitely understandable why people are asking these questions, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when something as powerful and destructive as a hurricane hits, it's natural to look for explanations to try to make sense of it all.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes those explanations can, well, they can get a little out there.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of that with Hurricane Helene for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the loudest voices out there is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
And she's suggesting that, maybe Hurricane Helene's path wasn't, natural.
Yeah.
That it might have even been, like, steered on purpose.
I've seen those claims.
And she even posted the CBS News segment to kind of back it up.
Okay.
It was about using lasers for weather control.
Right, right. And that's where things can get tricky because, yeah, there is research on things like lasers and weather modification, but the CBS segment that's being shared, yeah, that's from way back in 2013.
Oh, wow.
And it was really focused on very, very localized weather stuff, like trying to make rain, not steering giant hurricanes.
So, like, totally different from what is being used to justify now.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. We're talking about the difference between, like, maybe trying to influence a few clouds to release some rain versus controlling a massive complex system like a hurricane. Those are two very, very different things.
Okay, so that kind of puts that theory to rest.
Yeah.
But then there's also all this talk about lithium mining corporations somehow being involved.
Right.
And then you've got accusations of, like, discrimination and the disaster relief efforts.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's easy to get caught up in these theories, but we can't lose sight of the fact that there are real people who are suffering right now. Like, this isn't just some intellectual exercise. It's about life and death.
Exactly. And we know Hurricane Helene has already claimed over 230 lives.
Right.
And on top of that, now you've got Hurricane Milton bearing down on Florida. So, like, given all of this misinformation, what's being done to actually combat it?
Well, FEMA, they've actually got a dedicated rumor response page specifically to address all these false claims.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the White House even put out a statement about it. They said, and I quote, "Disinformation of this kind can discourage people from seeking critical assistance when they need it most."
That's terrifying. People are actually avoiding help because of these crazy rumors.
It's a real problem, and it's not just hypothetical. I read about North Carolina State Senator Kevin Corbin. He said his office is getting flooded with calls from constituents who are worried about these totally unfounded rumors. And of course, that just distracts everyone from actually, helping people who desperately need it.
Wow. So what can people do? I mean, how do you even begin to sift through all this information, especially during a crisis?
The biggest thing is to be super critical of what you see and hear. Don't just accept something is true because it's on social media or because it fits with what you already believe. Check multiple sources, look for evidence, and be wary of anything that seems overly sensational or too good to be true.
That's great advice. And I think it's also important to consider the source, right? Like, who's spreading this information and what might their agenda be? Sometimes that can tell you a lot.
100%.
Well, this deep dive has been, I've got to say, a little unsettling. It's amazing how quickly these theories pop up and how much damage they can actually do.
Absolutely.
So, as we all follow the news about Hurricane Helene and what happens with Hurricane Milton, let's all try to stay informed but also stay critical. Don't just hit the share button without really thinking about it.
Think before you share.
Exactly. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Stay safe out there.